So, I haven't done a vlog for a little while. It's just been so busy at home. I just haven't have time. And yes, I thought today I'd give it a whirl and see if I could fit it in. I just thought today I'd talk about, rather than talking about what actually happened, about what life is like for us now. And this is one that, that life has just completely taken over the last few weeks. I'm actually really tired today. I think I look quite tired as well. But it's just been really hectic, and our lives have just been turned upside down by this whole situation. To put that into some sort of context, I suppose, last year I still had my own business. I was employing staff and I loved what I was doing. And in May I made the decision, after we had a really awful Ofsted inspection, which ordinarily I would have fought them tooth and nail, because it was flawed and the judgment was wrong, but I just didn't have any fight left in me, so I made the decision to close, rightly or wrongly, but I made the decision to close. I was just exhausted and I couldn't do any more, and I suppose I had to start putting myself and my family first, and it's been really difficult. So we've gone from a family of 6 to a family of 8. That in itself brings lots of challenges, just basic things like a car, and there are a lot more available now, but trying to find an 8-9 seat vehicle, it's a commercial vehicle, it's not just, you can't just pop down to your local garage, because a lot of them don't stock them. You have to go to a specialist dealer. Booking holidays, suddenly our holidays just became, you think about your average family of 4, well, you've got to times that by 2, and it's not just the booking the holiday, it's the spending money, it's the clothes, it's everything else that goes with that. So suddenly holidays, we were just thinking, we're just not going to be able to afford to do this anymore. So we invested in camping equipment. We'd already been a few times with the kids the year before, so we just decided that's what we were going to do, so that we got time away. So we invested in camping equipment, so that, instead of staying in places like Center Parcs or nice lodges and things, we have to go camping now, because that's the only way we can afford to take the children away on a regular basis, without it costing us the earth. We're even just going out for dinner. When we go for dinner, we can't just walk into a restaurant now and just go table for 8 or 9 if my father-in-law comes with us, because you have to book these things. Interestingly, I tried to book a table. It was a Marsden's pub. I tried to book for myself and my sister Kerry, who was bringing her boys with her. I tried to book a table with them, and they actually wouldn't let me book a table with them because there were too many of us, which I couldn't. I was absolutely stunned. I even said, look, I'll pay if it's about worrying about somebody cancelling, I'll pay a deposit, and they just wouldn't do it. They wouldn't accept the booking, and I was a bit flabbergasted by that. But we quite often, when we go out, we find we get stared at. We've in a queue, and it was actually not long after Natalie was murdered, and it was probably fortunate that there was a very nice man there stood next to us that kind of whisked me away from this lady. But we were because obviously we've got a couple of children with very special needs, and under the circumstances, asking them all to stand still in a queue for 15-20 minutes, it's just not going to happen. So we spoke to the chap at the that was actually running the ride and said, look, how long is, have we got time, because it was the end of the day, and how long will it be till the next group goes through? And he said 15-20 minutes. And so I said to him, is it okay if there's X amount of us to go on? Is it okay if we stay here and they go off and go skating for that 20 minutes? And he said, yeah, that's fine. As long as I know how many are on, that's fine. This lady comes up behind us in the queue, and the kids came back and she just went off on one because the kids weren't stood in the queue, so it meant she had to wait longer. And I said, well, actually, we've got some children that actually can't stand for 20 minutes in a queue because they find that very challenging, they find that very difficult. But that just wasn't good enough for this woman, so she started, and I think, you know, some of those emotions and things were starting to bubble under the surface, and we went through onto, it was like these segue things, and she was looking at me through while you're having this health and safety brief, and she was chuntering away to the woman behind. But the irony of it was that she actually left the queue with her daughter to take her to the toilet and came back, but that was okay. It's just like, well, you know, how is your daughter needing the toilet any different to a child with autism who struggles to be able to stand for a length of time? Anyway, that's a bit of a rant for this morning, because it really upset me that you know, she had such an issue because we were a large group, but actually the guy that was running the ride had no issue with it, and he was fully aware of the situation. But this very kind man next to me just said, look, just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just deep breathing. So there's little things like that. You know, we've been in restaurants before, and you can see people actually talking about us, which is, you know, it's hard. It's really hard. You know, you see people sort of doing the muttering, look out, they need to get a taxi driver said it to us when we were going somewhere. We were talking to some friends in the back, and he said, you lot need to get yourself a television. And, you know, so you get, and I know sometimes it's just done in jest, but sometimes it can be quite hurtful, some of the things that people say. So those are just like the practicalities, you know, like I could do with a washing machine 3 times the size that it is, because it just never stops. If seriously, I'm amazed I don't have Sherpas living at the bottom of my washing pile, because it's huge. It's just enormous. And as fast as I clear it, it's there again. And it feels like a never-ending battle. I've got 1,000,001 jobs that I would love to be doing, but instead my days are taken up by, it's like Groundhog Day. I get up every morning, I clean the kitchen, I do the washing, I sort the dog, you know, I'm making beds, I'm tidying up, I'm putting away, and then the house is all lovely and clean and tidy, and then everyone comes home from work and school, and I think, well, why did I bother? But if I don't do it, then I'd end up living in something that looks akin to the local tip. In fact, I'd say probably the local tip is tidier. And it's disheartening, you know. I think, well, actually I could have spent my day starting the book that I want to write. I could have spent my day, I could have, you know, I could go back out to work, but I can't because I've got all this other stuff going on. But then on top of that, just the general day-to-day stuff that, you know, anybody that's a stay-at-home parent will get. But then there's the other side, the other stuff that's going on. We've got 2 children that have been through a horrendous trauma, that, you know, so there's a lot of stuff going on around that. But we also have 2 children, not the same 2 children, who have type 1 diabetes, which obviously, you know, is a serious condition and it has to be managed. And our youngest daughter has just been diagnosed with celiac, which was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous. And celiac is an autoimmune condition, and it's not some faddy diet. It's, you know, I mean, I actually was really cross when I read something that one of these Michelin star chefs had written about people going on gluten-free diets and things. My daughter has no choice, and until recently she still had an NG tube down. She's now got what they call a PEG or a Mickey button, or there's various names for them. But she is now fed overnight via a pump, because she won't eat, because she's built up such a huge food aversion. She's frightened to eat because she associates food with pain, and that's really hard. You know, it's really hard because we knew something was wrong. We just didn't know what. And literally, when she went into hospital, she weighed less than a 1-year-old, and she's 2. she's still wearing 9 to 12 month clothes. She's tiny. She just stopped growing, and I kept saying, you know, she's still got the same shoes, you know, and I've got a bit of a problem with shoes, yeah, I know, but you know, I kept saying, no, there's something not right. Her feet are just not growing. She's not growing. The same clothes that she was wearing on her birthday, she's still wearing now. You know, I've already, you know, she's my fourth. You just, mother's instinct, you just know something's not quite right. And then she just rapidly started to lose weight. Around August it started, and she was eating less and less and less, and it just got more and more obvious, to the point when she was actually admitted to hospital, she looked so poorly. But at that point we didn't know what was wrong. We just knew that there was something wrong, and I can honestly say it was probably one of the lowest points in my life, was sitting in that hospital ward. She was admitted on the Monday very quickly, because her bloods and everything were just not good. So they admitted her straight up to the ward. And on the Wednesday, she'd had a barrage of tests done already, and she'd been for CT scans and chest x-rays and various other things. And the doctor came in, and she was very frank, and she just said, you know, we don't know what is wrong. And I need to make you aware that we are testing her for, and it was leukemia, cancer, brain tumours, you know, I mean, the word, you know, as a mum, just even thinking about it makes me go cold. It was just the worst time, and it was probably the only time in my life that I didn't want to be on my own, because I was so frightened. You know, all this other stuff's gone on in my life, but that was just not good at all. Sitting there in a hospital ward on your own and being told these things. Thankfully it wasn't, but it's still a lifelong condition that we at the moment we have to manage on top of everything else. And I suppose perhaps if she was eating normally and was getting back into a bit of a routine, that would make it a bit easier. But the fact that she's still refusing to eat, and she's barely drinking, and everything's basically just going down this peg, it's hard. It's really hard. You know, it's tiring, you know, because the feed runs overnight, so every time she moves and the tube gets kinked and the alarm goes off, you're up, and most of the time it's me that has to deal with that, because obviously Stephen has to get up for work. Yeah, I mean, my kids are amazing, and they, you know, Morgan, bless her, she's my wingman. She steps in and she knows how to set the pump up and do all the flushes. She knows how to do Kaylee's insulin and work out the carbs. And, you know, if I'm dishing up with dinner, I'll tell her what the carbs are, and she'll administer the insulin. And yeah, it's just, it's really tough. It's really, really tough. Really tough. And I think the last week was just like, obviously all the kids were going back to school and things, and normally I'd be like really on it and doing stuff, but I was just exhausted after Christmas. And I just think with Isabel going into hospital in, like, literally she went in on the 22nd of December and didn't get out until it was 21st, 22nd December, and she didn't get out till Christmas Eve. So everything just felt really rushed, and it was just a slog. But we got through it, and we had a lovely Christmas, but it was just another thing, you know. And when you feel like you've just had one thing after another, you kind of almost reach breaking point. And I think last week I just needed to just not do anything. I just needed to just you know, and it's, you know, people always go, oh, you're amazing, I don't know how you do it, you're like, you're superwoman. I'm not superwoman. I'm not superwoman by any stretch of the imagination. I'm no different to any other parent out there, just struggling to get by and forgetting show and tell every week without fail, you know, forgetting random stuff. And you know, I'm no different to any parent out there. perhaps I'm just better at putting on a face so people don't see the other side of it. You know, I'd love to be that mum that turns up at school with her hair coiffed every morning and her makeup on and always looking smart, not covered in dog hair and yogurt drinks from breakfast, and yeah, and you know, my house would be pristine and spotless, but you do what you can, you do your best, and at the end of the day the kids are happy, and that's all that matters. We actually have up on one of the walls we have a phrase, and it says, happiness can always be found in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light. And it's a phrase that Albus Dumbledore says in Harry Potter. And honestly, there is not a truer word spoken for our family, honestly, because we have been to hell and back over the last 18 months. And you know, we still manage to laugh and smile and find positives every day. It doesn't mean to say there aren't low points, because there are. You know, I get up every morning and I think about Natalie, and I think about what the day's going to hold. The same, sounds awful, drudgery, because I've gone from feeling like I had real purpose in that I got up every morning and you know, my little business, and for me it was something I was really proud of, and that's all gone. And there's nothing wrong with being just mum. There is absolutely nothing wrong with being just mum, but I'm just feeling at the moment a little bit lost, and I feel like I need to get that purpose back again. I need that focus, which is one of the reasons I've been doing a lot of the speaking and sort of pushing around those areas, because it gives me a purpose. It gives me some focus and some drive, and at the moment I need that. I need that to feel like me, because you get lost in just being mum. You disappear in all that other stuff, and I feel like at the moment that day here and there, I get to be me. I get to put on my smart clothes. I'm going to a meeting shortly. My makeup, do my hair, put my heels on, and go. And people want to listen to me. They want to hear me. I'm not, Mum, where's this? Mum, where's that? I get to be me. And it is a little bit selfish, I suppose, but at the moment I really need that. So I'm going to leave it there today anyway, and hopefully I'll have a bit more time tomorrow, because what I thought tomorrow is I will give you a virtual tour of our house.